School culture is kind of everything. School culture is your school, whether you realize it or not. It's how you respond to difficult situations. It's how you communicate. It's how you put up signs or don't to show people around the school. It's how you train people. It's how you bring in new people.
Hello and welcome to the show. Today I'm sitting down with Dr. Josiah Marr, fresh off completing his doctorate at the University of Toronto, where he studied what leaders actually do to improve the international school culture. He's a former international school teacher, founder of Josiah Marr consultant, and a consultant with Global School Consulting Group. He's also the man behind the Adventure Year, which I'm excited to hear about, a project that took him to more than 30 top international schools around the world. Josiah, welcome to Global Student Voices.
Hey, it's an honor to be here, Scott. Thanks for having me.
Take us back to July 2016. You and your wife are leaving everything you know behind in Canada to teach in Bangkok. How did that happen?
The Lord's sovereignty would be my banner answer to start that one off. In general, God grew within me a heart for missions in the summer of 2014, a few years before that. I visited Bangladesh and Nepal and just briefly, supported missionaries, learned about their projects, and really opened my mind. This is my first time ever in Asia. And I came home thinking, I need to go back there. I don't know what I'm going to do, but I'm going to help, and I want to support, and I want to raise awareness. All these things, super important, super valuable, wonderful missions projects that are happening in those places. But I didn't have skills yet. I didn't necessarily have something to add. I had a passion for sport. I had some interpersonal skills. That was about it. So my parents said, hey, you're registered for this Bachelor of Education program. You got to just go. You got to go and become the teacher in order to at least, be able to use those skills. So I did that program for a year. I did an internship in Beijing at the Canadian International School of Beijing, which is an IB school. I learned a lot about international schools, which I didn't even know existed. And this kind of opened my mind to this kind of what I call the open world of international schools and the possibilities of being a tent-making missionary, of being on the ground and supporting the work that's done there and adding value to communities. Maybe it's supporting missionaries themselves, maybe their families, and lots of other things as well. So from there, long story about joining ICS Bangkok, but basically God gave me favor in the eyes of the leadership at ICS Bangkok to hire a teacher with just 1 year experience, this guy, to go teach middle school science. Wow. And I had a wonderful experience there.
Very cool. So you had 6 years of experience. You were in Bangkok and in Hong Kong. What's your big learning takeaway as the teacher in those classrooms?
My big learning experience probably is that God uses those who are willing. I wasn't the ultimate educator when I showed up. Like I said, I had 1 year of experience. God then kind of opened my eyes to the level of education that was happening within those walls of the school and helped me to be humble enough to ask for help and to say, hey, principal, Karen Conwell, come into my class whenever you want. I need to get better at this. And hey, Scott Hayden, director of teaching and learning. I'm not that great of a teacher yet. I want to be though. And I know that you are because you do this job. So come into my class and give me a pointer every time you're here. Just email it to me. And these people were so instrumental in kind of the growth side. Again, God uses the willing. I was just wanting to learn. I was trying to be humble enough to know that I had things to learn. But yeah, throughout my time in Bangkok as well as in Hong Kong, another big takeaway would be just the wonderful missional work that's happening in schools like that at ICS Bangkok and at International Christian School in Hong Kong as well. The educators are really committed to the mission, and in terms of missional, that there's just wonderful missions opportunities that are happening that these schools support by having missionary families there or having people who are involved in missions or involved in businesses in those countries. And there's this wonderful kind of collaborative community involved with that.
Yeah, the interconnectedness of a Christian school and how it then permeates across, and all the different kind of ministry and missional work that you're involved in because you're supporting. Like if you're not there supporting those kids, those parents can't be fully focused. And if you're doing a good job with the kids, the parents are even more free to do their thing. And the influence then you have in the home and all those things, it's all that interconnectedness is it's really difficult for somebody who's not had that experience to understand it. Like there's kind of no words that really capture it. I think people just like, oh, you're a teacher and you're not in the US. Okay, got it. No, it's a bigger it's a bigger thing than that. You talk a lot about, and you did your doctoral work and school culture. Surely most people who've tuned into this podcast get that. Those of us even who get it, help us articulate it better.
Yeah, sure. I call myself a school culture consultant. This is a passion that I grew during my time at ICS Bangkok. That's the International Community School of Bangkok. It became really apparent that this school had a bunch of educators that were bought in, that cared about each other, had administration that took care of its people,
Mm.
that went above and beyond, not just through policy, but through how they treated people day to day, through how they responded to difficult situations, that this was a community that cared for itself, cared for each other, and that was building something that was on mission with a clear vision and direction to do something to honor the Lord. So this really got me excited about school culture. I started to learn about these leaders or from these leaders about how to do that. And then God led me to this doctoral program at the University of Toronto. And my original topic was going to be something about enrollment due to the COVID pandemic, because it was kind of that season, right? 21, 22, when I was applying for this program. But then God led me to this thing that's really been what's interested me most about education, which is school culture. And kind of in general, you said kind of help people understand the topic. It's my thought is that school culture is kind of everything. School culture is your school, whether you realize it or not. It's how you respond to difficult situations. It's how you communicate. It's how you put up signs or don't to show people around the school. It's how you train people. It's how you bring in new people. It's really kind of touches so many elements of school. It's your teaching and learning. It's your professional development, et cetera, et cetera.
So it's that when somebody shows up on campus and experiences your school and either comes away with like, oh wow, there's something different happening here. Like even if you can't articulate what it is, and often in the school setting, even the people at the school can't really articulate it. It's just who we are. We're just doing what we do. That's our school culture. The best practitioners are intentional about it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's purpose built, and I'm sure we'll get into more of that as we go on here. But it's the difference between good schools and great schools, the school culture.
So if as you look at the private K-12 international schools specifically, what are maybe some takeaways from the research that you think directly apply or are most helpful? Like what's the big one takeaway for the school leader that's watching today?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's kind of a two-pronged takeaway. One is that school culture can be improved. This is something that you, school leader, can work on and can see improvement in over years.
Pardon the interruption. Thanks for listening to this episode of Global Student Voices. We're glad you're here. We try really hard to provide good content for international school leaders, parents, and students. But to know what you want to hear, we need to hear from you. So please reach out and let us know what you'd like to hear next. Now, back to the show.
It's not a overnight thing. It's not a bring in one person for one session and wow, our school culture is different. It'll probably help, but it won't be an automatic. It's a process, and it is possible to improve. The second prong of my two-prong takeaway is that really specific to my research, I wanted to make something practical. I want to make something accessible for leaders. I had, backing up from this whole part of the story, I had no interest in doing a doctorate. God spoke to me in 2021 and said, get a doctorate to lead the schools that I want you to lead. And I said, wow. Nope. I said, you're clearly talking to somebody else. That's not me. I had literally thought of doing a doctorate, or people had suggested to me, what about a doctorate during my master's, after my master's? And I would say no way, a thesis? Could you imagine writing a 200-page thing? That's crazy, And I would say things like that and then entirely dismiss it. Not interested, not Googling things late at night, maybe I'll do this. No interest, right? Mm. And so when God spoke to me to do this, it was I was telling my wife, guess what? God said, guess what I'm going to do now? And the challenge of that, but again, that God uses the willing. It's I was willing to be used by God, even if I didn't have the skills or have the wherewithal to do the thesis, all the things. And he really used it. So that second prong, back to that takeaway, is that I wanted to make something practical. So I made something based on the research, which I can dive into as deep as you want, but called the International School Culture Resource. It's an original toolkit that leaders can use. I think of it like a personality test for your school culture, that when you do the test, it's going to give you a preliminary understanding of where your school is at with a score. And then that score is going to lead you to a pathway, which has some practices, some things you could implement at your school. Pick one, pick two, and start working on those. Maybe you're already doing those. Okay, can you refine those things? Maybe you could use one of these other things, other suggestions. And then I worked on it with leaders. I trialed it with a few leaders, got their feedback. They said, hey, this is pretty useful. There's room to improve it. It's pretty good. We could improve it, and I'm working on improving it. Going to share that, or will share that, have been sharing that with leaders. So it's something that was a lot of fun to do, and something that I'm excited to keep growing throughout this process of consulting with schools.
Yeah, that's fantastic. My observation, and certainly my practice, my experience, was we tried to do some kind of annual self-evaluation, self-reflection. Sometimes we did it because it was our accreditation year and we had to do it and document it. Other times we did it because we knew it was the best practice, but we didn't really know what we were doing. One year, I remember the board kind of led the effort and put together a tool for us to use. And it was really horrible, really wonderful, well-intending people who were not educators and had not done the research and really were just curious about some superficial things and thought that those would improve schools. When I'm observing a lot of schools, it's there are a lot of conversations about test scores or some kind of competitive things that really have very little to do on the impact your students have beyond your school. And so this is huge, man. I didn't even know you had this tool when we agreed to talk, and I'm like, this is the thing. Like, this is like every international school right now should be like hitting you up and getting a copy of this. Do you charge them like a crazy amount for this assessment?
Yeah, it's approximately $3 million per school. No, I'm totally joking. For those who just turned off the podcast, turn it back on. It's one of those things that I come attached with the toolkit, right?
Yeah.
If you want to use the toolkit, absolutely, you should use it. You should give it a try. You should work on it with your leadership team. You should get some feedback included from your staff, from your students, from your parents, even all these things. Wrap it all in there. But if you want to implement well, if you want to discuss, if you want to understand the research and the extension of what 30 of the top international schools in the world do, which I experienced this year, then let's talk about it.
Yeah.
And let's work together on it.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Well, for those of you listening in, if you're a parent or a student in a school, then you're going to share this podcast with your school administrators, or you're going to hit us up and we're going to get you connected to Josiah and get this set up. It just seems like a no-brainer. Like, it just seems like do the assessment and then get outside input. Like, why wouldn't you do that? Like, it's zero risks for you as a school, and knowing you in your heart, this isn't going to break their bank either. Like, that scarcity mentality that creeps into international schools, like, get over yourselves. You have whatever this costs. I don't know, and I'm not asking. Like, find that out for yourself. But whatever it costs, you can do that. Like,
absolutely.
And
I'm willing to be flexible with schools. I know there are schools of all types out there, Scott. I know we have schools that have $50 million endowments out there that just grow their investment money to use for iPads each year, right? Yep. And there are schools which are completely missions-based, which are on the other side of the spectrum, fundraising. All their teachers are fundraising for support. I am willing to, and have already spoken with, but willing to work with all of those types of schools. Yeah. So contact me and we will absolutely work something out. Don't let price be a barrier here, friends.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think is fantastic about you and I are both a part of the Global School Consulting Group. And one of the things I love about that group, I'm very new to it, like very new, like weeks old in this.
Congratulations. Welcome to the group.
Thank you. One of the things that really drew me to it as I kind of shopped who I was going to associate myself with was this idea of being willing to meet schools where they are. And that's been the part of what we do with both working with schools as well as working with individual students and families. Price is not going to keep you from getting the help you need. I may push back a little bit, having been in some scarcity institutions. I know there's some discretion. Like, somebody needs to push and say, get a consultant and pay them. Like, like, you get what you pay for, in a sense. Like, and I think that's, the consultants with Global are going to give you your best stuff regardless of how much you pay, but be generous. Like that should be one of our philosophies as Christians in leadership. At the same time, also don't not reach out because you're not sure how you're going to pay for it. We need to be
Right.
continually improving and working on our school culture is central to every institution, whether it's faith-based institution or not. Your school must have identity. If you're not growing, this assessment, I'm just, again, we just met and I'm already like, I already know you did the research. There's going to be pieces in here that are going to be the reason why you're not growing is because your culture, if you can't articulate your uniqueness clearly, that's why you don't grow.
Yeah, absolutely, Scott. That International School Culture resource is multifaceted. It looks into perspective from parents. It considers cultural sensitivity. It's asking questions about the accessibility of your communication for families of multiple languages. It's getting into you as a leader and what biases might you have and how are you considering those, and a whole bunch of perspective pieces all based on the research, and looks at things like how do you take care of your people? How are you collaborating as an institution? How's your inclusive leadership? How much are you sharing and including others in decision making and whatnot? Teaching and learning focus. What is your teaching and learning focus? Do you have one? Because if you don't, you probably want one for this year, right? You're a school, so let's build up the teaching and learning focus. Things like that are just a few of the tidbits that it gets into.
Yeah, I'm distracted by how awesome this tool is. Give us a little sample of the adventure year. These 30 schools, and I think it's a real value add that you bring as a consultant, having spent this time. Tell us a little bit about this experience. Hey, what happened? I know, right? We interrupted this conversation to say join us next week as we continue the conversation with Josiah Marr. He's a fantastic guest and he has a lot more to offer. So join us again next week on Global Student Voices and have a great week.